January 23rd, 1556. Early morning in Shaanxi, China. Everything felt normal. A cold breeze moved quietly across the land. The ground was still. Most people were fast asleep. And perhaps the most chilling part, no one had even the slightest idea of what was about to happen. There were no warning systems, no early alerts, no technology that could tell people that the ground beneath them was about to tear apart. It was a time when understanding nature's signals was nearly impossible. And then, within less than a minute, one of the deadliest earthquakes in history began. That single minute ended the lives of nearly 800,000 people. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, tectonic plates are always moving. Most of the time, we don't even feel it. But sometimes, that silent movement turns into a violent release. In simple terms, the outer layer of the Earth is not one solid piece. It is divided into multiple plates that are constantly shifting. Sometimes these plates move closer together, sometimes they drift apart, and sometimes they grind against each other. The Shaanxi region was already geologically sensitive. Energy had been building up there for years, perhaps even centuries. And on that day, the pressure had crossed its limit. Early in the morning, the ground gave a faint tremor. Some people woke up, others ignored it. Then, the shaking intensified. Within seconds, the ground began to move violently. Buildings started to sway, walls began to crack, and then the earth split open. Massive fissures appeared, some so deep that their bottoms were impossible to see. Mountains broke apart and collapsed. Entire settlements were destroyed within seconds. Huashang and nearby regions were almost completely devastated. People didn't even have time to react, no time to understand, no time to escape. At that time, most people lived in Yaodong homes, cave-like structures carved into hills made of compacted earth. Under normal conditions, these homes were safe and stable, but during the earthquake, they became death traps. As the shaking began, the caves collapsed, and the people inside them never came out. Imagine for a moment a mother sleeping beside her child, just like any ordinary morning. As the ground began to shake, she woke up, trying to understand what was happening, but by then it was too late. The walls of the Yaodong collapsed within seconds. Or a man trying to run outside for safety, only to find the ground splitting open right in front of him. And then, silence. There were thousands of such stories that were never recorded. No names, no faces, just numbers. Many people died instantly, but not all. Some were trapped under debris, no light, no air, no help. And slowly their breathing faded away. Historical records suggest that more than 97 counties were affected by this earthquake. In some areas, up to 60% of the population was wiped out. In others, entire communities were nearly erased. This wasn't just a natural disaster, it was a massive human tragedy, one that was too large to even document accurately. And even after the earthquake, the danger didn't end. Aftershocks continued, not for days, but for months. Already damaged structures kept collapsing with every new tremor. Food supplies were disrupted, clean water became scarce, diseases began to spread. Those who survived were not truly safe, they were struggling. They had lost their homes, they had lost their families, and most of all, they had lost their sense of security. At night, people were afraid to sleep. Every slight tremor felt like the beginning of another disaster. Many chose to stay out in the open, enduring cold and hunger, driven by the fear that the ground might shake again. When the casualties were finally estimated, the number was staggering, around 800,000 deaths. But this number is not just a statistic, it is a reminder of how real human vulnerability can be. The magnitude of the earthquake was powerful but not extraordinary. So why did it become so deadly? Weak structures, dense population, and critical timing. It struck in the early morning when most people were indoors. Sometimes it is the circumstances that define the scale of a disaster. If an earthquake of similar magnitude struck today, the situation would not be the same. Today we have earthquake-resistant buildings, early warning systems, and organized disaster response teams. And yet, even now, we are not in complete control of nature. Even in well-prepared countries, damage cannot always be avoided. So imagine, in 1556, when knowledge and resources were limited, how vulnerable people truly were. Even after all these years, the Shaanxi earthquake remains a critical case study for science, for history, and for human survival. Preparation does not come from technology alone. It comes from awareness, from planning, and from respect for the power of nature. Because the truth is, earthquakes can never be predicted with complete certainty. We can only try to reduce their impact, and perhaps that is why it is so important to remember history, because stories like this are not just part of the past, sometimes they are warnings for the future. So the question is, when the ground beneath us begins to shake, will we be ready, or will history repeat itself?